Your thoughts on that? I was just wondering, how many guys aren't shifted on? There's actually a bunch that aren't shifted on.
Well, you didn't mention Jeff McNeil for the Mets. He's another guy that they can't really shift on anymore because he hits the ball to all fields as well. In watching the games,
he was up, by the way, because I called that game.
Yeah.
He was up at like 36%.
Yeah.
But he's consistently beating the shift. So eventually, what's going to happen? They have to take off they're going to have to take off the shift on him.
Or they won't, like they don't with Freddie Freeman.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the players, the left-handed hitters are really who we're talking about, right? And the left-handed hitters, at some point, that ground ball to the right side is no longer a hit that we used to see when we were kids. But when you talk to Freemans and the Muncies and other left-handed hitters, it's not that rollover ground ball to the second baseman in the outfield that bothers them. They feel like that's a bad swing anyway, right? It's that bullet up the middle that you were taught since you were a kid, that every time you hit a ball hard up the middle, you get a base hit 100% of the time. And that's really gone down considerably. If you shift on a left-handed hitter, they hit 219. If they don't, they hit around 250. It's a huge difference.
Now, I just want to point out, because that does bother, and Jason, you've written about this. That does. Freddie Freeman, I think, is quoted in your piece saying, I hate that back up the middle and it's not a base hit. All right, but when you stand at the plate, you assess the field and you say, there's 5 guys over there. There's nobody over there. I don't know. What do you think you should do? So, and I want to incentivize the next generation of player to do that.
Okay, since we keep mentioning Freddie Freeman, for the big shift piece that I wrote a couple months ago, I talked to Freddie. And it's really interesting that you say that, Brian, because look at this quote. He talks about, I know he's your role model for beating the shift. He's talking about how hard it is. Just hit the ball the other way. Really? I'm up there. These guys throw 5 pitches. They're all at 98 miles an hour, moving in all these different directions. Everybody thinks you should just flip it to the other side. It's not that easy.
Well, and yet he does that. He's done it. And other guys can do it if they don't sell out for power. I'm not saying it's all easy, but there are guys who aren't shifted on, and you will then open up the field.
All right, see, I sympathize for this reason. Guys have a swing that get them to the big leagues. Now, all of a sudden, you get to the big leagues, the information is so good, the defensive positioning is so good, now they're telling you, don't swing that way anymore. That's hard, man. That is altering the way your body has always worked, the way your biomechanics have always worked. Like, it sounds so simple. This has been this thing you've done all your life that got you to this point.
I would end with this. What I think those who want to ban the shift want to accomplish would be doing the complete opposite if they do ban the shift, because then you're incentivizing and protecting the Adam Dunns of the world, Joey Gallo, and you're not protecting the guy like Jeff McNeil, who's saying, you know what, they're shifting on me a third of the time. I think I'll start spraying and bunting the ball. I'm going to use some effective counter strategy. You're saying forget that and just swing for the fences.
Yeah, let me say something. Now that is true. I talked to a general manager when I was working on this piece, who he's not opposed to some shift limit. But this is what he said to me. Do you want to incentivize players to play the game a certain way, or do you want to incentivize us to build our teams a certain way? Because if you're trying to incentivize those guys who come up and use the whole field, banning the shift doesn't do that. It does the opposite of that.
Right. I saw the shift used once, though, against DJ LeMahieu when he was winning batting titles in Colorado. Shortstop, right side had 3 infielders, no left fielder, center fielder, right center fielder, right fielder. No left fielder against LeMahieu. And here's another option for our shift. How about if you're allowed to shift 1 person?
Okay, but it still seems artificial, but all right. Trying to come up with rather than stand there like a dope. But I know he's going to hit the ball here. You can't stand there. Yeah, but we know he's going to hit. Don't stand there and just watch that base hit. Doesn't that seem a little silly? But I want to stand over here. No, but then you might catch the ball. How silly is that?
Of course. You know, I try to explain the shift to football fans. Why, when it's 3rd and an inch, are there 11 guys at the line of scrimmage? Okay, because we know that's what you're going to do. Right. Why do teams shift? Because we know if we throw you this pitch in this spot, we know exactly where you're going to hit it, and somebody's going to be standing there. So there are really 2 levels to this. It's not just the shift. It's defensive positioning is so precise now that actually just banning the shift, that wouldn't do it.
Interesting.
I think what you really have to do, when you talk about that single up the middle that Freddie Freeman rhapsodizes about, If you can put your shortstop or your second baseman right behind the bag, putting two infielders on each side of the bag does nothing. You know the way to do that? Get that single up the middle? You need a pie slice.
Yeah.
You know, the shortstop and the second baseman have to stand, what, 15 feet from second base?
So right now, again, you're going to say, no, you must stand there. Yeah, but the ball's not hit there, but you must stand there.
The other
It's
sports
ridiculous.
have rules on where you can stand on defense.
And there haven't been in baseball for hundreds of years, and I was told it didn't work anyway, and it was silly. And now suddenly you have to ban it because it's so silly. I don't know. All right, I think we achieved something here.